Man City have only gone and done it again, beating multiple top teams to the signing of Bournemouth winger Antoine Semenyo, signing the Ghanaian for approximately £64 million. But why? I can hear you asking, given that they already have the most ridiculous squad ever, and how will he fit into Pep's system? Well, I've done some digging, and I've actually come to realise that this signing might make a lot more sense than we first realised. And there is one secret piece of data that completely convinced me that this was a great move for Manchester City, so stick around to see what that is. But before we get into that, we first need to understand Pep's system to know why they actually need the winger in the first place. So on paper, Manchester City have recently been lining up in a shape that looks a little bit like this. A 4-3-2-1 with Cherki and or Doku or Reinders playing quite close behind their main man Erling Haaland. But it can also sometimes look more like a 4-1-4-1 shape depending on who's actually starting. But what really matters are the systems and the tactics that the team use when they have the ball to try and build a good attack. We know Manchester City love possession, and in fact they sit second for the most average possession in the league so far this season. I think only Liverpool have more. But that means that it's really important that the players can have total control of the ball in tight areas of that attacking third. It's really important that they keep that ball under control. And to do this, we see something that looks a little bit like this. This is their 4-3-2-1 and it transitioned. Ignore the guy that just flew across the screen. It transitions into something a little bit like this. It's almost like a 3-1-6. And the way that it occurs variates depending... Is that a word? Variates? Wow, it is now. The way that it occurs depends on the side that the ball is on and also the players that are currently playing. If you have the likes of Reinders in here, then that also changes things completely. It depends where he's playing. We've seen him play left wing against Chelsea. We've seen him play as a number 10 behind Erling Haaland. Completely depends. But they end up in a shape similar to a 3-1-6. And you have Nico Gonzalez, but that could be Rodri now that he's back playing in this DM position. But you end up with a front six that looks something a bit like this. You can see you've got your front six there. I don't know why I've done it like that, but you've got 5 players playing behind the main man up top, Erling Haaland. And how it works is that one of the wingers tends to stay wide, in this case it's Jeremy Doku, and that means Foden and Silva can then push into these positions slightly behind Erling Haaland, picking up the half spaces, and then the opposite side winger, which is Ryan Cherki, can tuck inside slightly, meaning Núñez then has space to overlap on this right hand side. He can pick the ball up from these kind of areas and look to whip a ball in if need be for the likes of Erling Haaland to get on the end of. But they like to control the play. They like to dictate their attacks by keeping players really tight together, and can they keep the ball in this situation? We saw this kind of system against Chelsea where you can see one of the wingers tucks in and the other one stays wide. And again, it can depend. Sometimes you might see the likes of Foden and Silva swapping. You might see if Reinders is playing, he might make this kind of run. Completely depends. Also, Cherki doesn't always start, and if it is on the opposite side, you could see something a little bit like this where O'Reilly overlaps instead. But you want Doku high and wide, which is why it tends to be more this way around. So then from here, Manchester City can look to control the tempo of their own attacks. They dictate how fast they want to play the game, and they wait patiently. They wait for a through ball for a runner into the box. Can they find a little channel? They stretch the opposition's defence, wait for the open space to appear and attack it. Or they could look for the likes of Foden, the likes of Cherki, to pick the ball up in that zone 14 area and try and hit a shot from just outside the box, which they also are really good at. So both systems work, and they have various options that they can really take advantage of when they get the ball high up the pitch. And in fact, we actually saw a moment like this against Nottingham Forest. You can see here Manchester City have the ball wide and they stay patient in their attacking structure until eventually Elliot Anderson jumps out forward to apply some pressure to the ball, which leaves Cherki in a load of space in the box. Guardiola then plays that lovely pass into Cherki, who's in that space in the left-hand channel. And then you can see in the box that Nottingham Forest have decided to double up on Erling Haaland. And you completely get why with Murillo and Nico Williams. But that means that as Milenkovic then steps out to try and put pressure on Cherki, he can play that lovely reverse through ball into the space for Reinders to run onto, which he does so well. And Murillo initially starts to go and try and close him down, realises there's no chance, and then he has to drop back onto the goal line, but to no success. And Murillo can't stop the ball going in the back of the net. Reinders scores a lovely goal, all because of a nice patient piece of play where they found someone in space, attacked the box with a through ball, had a runner attack it, and a lovely finish as well. Reinders has been on form as well recently, so that also helps, but that's just one example of how Manchester City like to build up their attacks. And they actually sit first in the Premier League at the moment for number of build-up play sequences, as well as the number of goals scored as a result of build-up play sequences. The only time we ever really see them go direct is from a long ball, maybe from Donnarumma up to the likes of Erling Haaland, where he can try and win an aerial duel, and then you can try and isolate the likes of Doku or Semenyo out on the wings. Can they get 1v1 against their defender and really drive that way? That's another way that they like to go direct, but they're not really that experimental with this kind of system. They prefer to maintain control, and in fact, this is where Manchester City struggle, is in them direct attacks, them transitional moments where they are winning the ball and quickly trying to get up the pitch. The counter-attacks, they're not as good at that. And in fact, so far this season, they've only registered 27 direct attacks in the league, and they've only scored once from it. And for reference, when you look at that data, Everton have had 20 direct attacks. Not only have they had less, but they've scored twice. The likes of Everton are even better at them direct counter-attacks than what Manchester City are, despite the quality of Erling Haaland, Doku, Cherki, Foden. It's just not quite what it's not their system. It's not what they do. Again, we're coming back to this side of the pitch, Jeremy Doku. This is partly because of him. He's very good at carrying the ball. He's got so many progressive carries this season, a lot of distance of carrying the ball, but sometimes they just lack that direct threat on that left-hand side. It's the one area of the pitch that Manchester City actually failed to dominate. They don't really have total control in that area. So now I want you to take a look at these two different graphics, and these show the zones of domination on the pitch for two different Premier League teams. You're probably wondering, what the hell does that even mean? And don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to explain it. So the squares that you see in purple, they represent areas of the pitch which the team dominate. That means that they have over 55% of the touches in that area. So they're having more of the ball in that certain square of the pitch than what their opponents are. Whereas where it's pink, that is the area of the pitch where the opponents have 55% or more of the touches in that area of the pitch. So to put it basically, purple means good. You're very good at having the ball in that area, and pink is not so good. The opponents are better at having the ball in that area. You can kind of use this to see areas where maybe you are weak and you let a lot of the opposition have the ball, but you can also see areas where you are strong. Where do you really like to focus your attacks? Where do you focus your build-up play? And that's something really useful with these kind of graphics. And where you see the grey squares, actually, that means there is no standout team that dominate that area. So that could be that it's a 50-50 basically on who has most touches in that area. And if you can guess which of these two teams represent each graph or graphic, then no prizes, I'm afraid, because given that you've clicked on this video, I assume you probably can guess where it is going. But this shows exactly why Manchester City need Semenyo. And it's the one piece of data that I mentioned in the intro that totally convinced me about why Manchester City needed Antoine Semenyo in their squad. Now, the graphic that you currently see on the left-hand side, that one belongs to Manchester City, and it clearly shows that they dominate the ball on the right-hand side. The likes of Cherki, Silva, Reinders, Foden, they're all able to combine in really tight spaces and dominate the touches in that area of the pitch. They like to support the play and control the attacks on that right-hand side. Very touch heavy, not so much direct with how they go about their attacks on that side. Yet on the left-hand side, Manchester City fail to dominate this area. Regardless of who starts here, they don't have domination in that area of the pitch. That left wing is an area where they could gain more control. And that becomes slightly worrying when you see the number of touches that each Manchester City players had this season in the attacking third. Out of them all, Doku sits second in this list. So despite all of his progressive carries, all of these touches in the final third, he's not using the ball very well. He's not creating dominant moments within these areas of the pitch. And so that all points to one thing, that the left-hand side of the Manchester City attack, that left wing position, it has a lot of busyness. It's very busy. They get a lot of action down that side. We can see that by the number of touches Doku has had in the attacking third. But it's not decisive. They are not clear-cut in these areas. They don't dominate the ball. They aren't very clean with how they attack in these positions. And so that is an area of the pitch that they could really strengthen. And that brings me on to the graphic on the right from them earlier two graphs. Well, that shows Bournemouth's pitch domination. We're not very surprised by that. Now, Bournemouth struggled to control the game as much as what Manchester City do. You can see that by the less purple squares on this graphic. But one area where you can see a lot of domination for Bournemouth is on that left-hand wing. And we all know who plays there. Antoine Semenyo. I think that kind of already sums up everything that I'm about to say. But I'm going to carry on anyway because I love it. So despite having much less possession than what Manchester City do, Bournemouth are able to dominate this area of the pitch. They are able to control consistently their attacks down that left wing. And that is because of the touches that Antoine Semenyo has. He has a lot of tight touches where when he's carrying the ball, he keeps the ball very close to him. He's very agile with his movements and he protects that ball really well. Compare that to Doku. Doku's more of a player that likes to push the ball forward. This is why he's got such a high progressive carrying distance. He pushes the ball forward and uses his pace to get around the defender and beat the defender to the ball. That's his preferred style of dribbling. Semenyo, much more protective of how he dribbles with the ball. And in fact, this season, Semenyo has 457 touches in the attacking third, which if we compare that to the rest of the Man City squad, you can see that would rank him in 5th place. So again, similar to the likes of Cherki, where even though Cherki's not having as much of the ball, what he's doing with it on that right wing position means that Man City are able to control their attacks in that area. So I think Semenyo can offer something similar on that left wing position. And what really allows him to get to that next level, what allows him to dominate these areas, are his lack of angle bias. That means that regardless of the angle required to shoot or the angle that he's facing the play, if he's on the touchline compared to if he's 20 yards deeper, he's still able to manipulate the ball to open up space for himself. He's not impacted by their moments. I'm going to have a look at a couple of examples of where that happens. And this first one is against Fulham. This is a moment where actually it's a very good goal, but he picks the ball up on this left wing position. You can see he's driving forward, but a couple times he just slows down, keeps that ball tight to him, and he feints to go right slightly. He looks like he could cut inside, but instead he goes down around the outside towards the byline, and you're starting to think he's going to run the ball out of play, but he's able to cut back in and use his right foot as he enters the box to finish it in that far corner. It's a really tight but nice clean finish. Whereas this is a moment against Burnley, and we see something very similar. So he picks the ball up again on the left-hand side from Justin Kluivert, and he's facing up the Burnley defender square on. He could push it again out wide, or he can push it inside. And in this occasion, he does shift the ball slightly to the left and then pushes it inside the pitch, cuts inside and looks to shoot into that far corner, and he misses slightly, but it's the same sort of intentions that we see. It's a really nice example, or a couple of examples there, on how we can see Semenyo can go either way. He can go down the line or he can cut inside using that right foot, but he also has such a strong left foot that it doesn't really make a difference, and that no matter the angle that he's dribbling at, he's still able to find that space. It's really impressive. It's really impressive. But I think what sells it the most convincing piece of data that we can look at is how clinical Semenyo is in front of goal. He is so good. He's consistent and convincing. You believe he's going to get a good shot away, and probably 9 times out of 10, you think he's going to score. That's really a testament to how consistent he's been over the years he's been in the Premier League. And he can hit the ball so cleanly on either foot, on his left or on his right. He can strike the ball very powerfully using that instep, either across the face of goal or into whip it into that far corner or near post. Doesn't matter, he's able to do it. And he generates that shot power so quickly. He takes a shot so quick that it means that the goalkeeper doesn't have time to react, and so that gives him such an advantage when he gets into these shooting positions. In Europe's top 5 leagues this season, Semenyo sits 9th for overperformance of his XG. In Europe so far, and for Bournemouth. Just let that sink in. And that's because he scored 10 goals from only an expected 6.7. That's a 3.3 overperformance. He scored 3.3 more goals, than what he has been expected to. But this isn't just a one-off either, and this is what's really impressive. It's not a one-off. Over his 2 full seasons and 2 half seasons at Bournemouth so far in the Premier League, he has totaled a tally of 30 goals. That's quite impressive. It's not absolutely ridiculous, but it's quite impressive. Even more so when I tell you the XG that he's had in the Premier League for his entire time is 21.6. The fact that he's outperformed his XG by, 8.4, I think? Let me do quick maths. I think I've got that right. 8.4 more goals than what he's expected to. Time and time again, over seasons upon seasons, he's consistently able to overperform. He scores goals more than what he should, and that's because of his ability to finish from any angle on either foot. Doesn't matter, he's able to get a shot away, and a very deadly one at that as well. His defensive work also needs to be mentioned. Manchester City have recently reinvented their defensive style of play. They've obviously put a lot more effort into it, and it's starting to look much better again, which is making Manchester City a much better team again. And Semenyo, again, his defensive work rate at Bournemouth has been nothing shy of incredible. And no attacker in the league has made more ball recoveries than what Antoine Semenyo has. So his work rate is definitely second to none. That's thanks to the pressing that Iraola makes him do. And Iraola's pressing is vital to Bournemouth's style of play. If they didn't have that, I think they would suffer severely in this league. But it means it's ingrained into how he plays. Semenyo knows instantly the pressing situations, where he's meant to jump to, when he's meant to jump as well, which is a crucial thing. And looking to win that ball back high up the pitch wherever possible. And the proof is in the data too. Bournemouth ranked second this season for shot-creating actions as a result of a defensive action. And that just basically means every time you win the ball back from a defensive action, whether that's an interception or a tackle, are you then able to use that moment of regaining the possession and generate a shot from it? Bournemouth ranked second for that. Manchester City, however, well, they rank 17th. And that's because they are so used to this system where when they win the ball back, regardless of where on the pitch, unless it's a really, really obvious chance, they won't take that opportunity to generate a shot. They will win the ball back and they will, again, slow down the tempo of the play and wait for an even better opportunity to present itself. That's just how they play. So, again, Semenyo can add both something new within this system by being a lot more clinical, a lot more direct when he wins the ball back, but by also being a very good attacker that's able to win the ball back for the team, that's able to press the opponents high up the pitch. So the question then that we're all thinking is, where does Semenyo fit into this team? Who's he competing with? Where's he going to likely line up within this squad? And if you want my personal opinion, I think the most likely chance is he's going to be competing with Jeremy Doku for that left winger position. I think that they're going to rotate. I don't think Semenyo is going to be a guaranteed starter, at least not until he's put himself into some great form. But I think what he offers is a lot more transitional threat in them counter-attacking moments, especially on that left-hand side. He's able to make, if we swap him out, he's able to make from this position where Manchester City are looking to go forward quickly, either from inside to out or from outside to in. He's able to make these runs with power, with real intensity, and they penetrate that back line that Manchester City don't currently have other than Erling Haaland. Foden doesn't make them kind of runs, and he doesn't have the pace and power to do it. Same with Cherki, the same with Silva. They're really technical players, but they don't have that real intensity to get forward quickly with the ball. And I think Semenyo is going to offer that, especially against teams where they've stepped up slightly. He's able to offer them penetrating runs that can either split or open up channels in the opposition's defence, or he's able to pin the opposition defence back. Either way, it opens up space on the pitch that can be capitalised on. And only Haaland really also has that power and pace to do that. So it offers something else, which I do think differentiates himself slightly from the likes of Doku. I think he's just a lot more direct with how he carries the ball, a lot more convincing when he has it in their moments. And I actually think when we get higher up the pitch, again, in these moments, can we get Semenyo in and around the box in these areas? Around here, he's actually got a really good aerial duel rate, by the way. I think that's something to mention. If the ball goes long from Donnarumma high up the pitch, it's only really Haaland that at the moment has that ability to knock the ball down, whereas Semenyo also does have pretty good aerial ability. His heading goes underrated. But can we actually go into the opposite direction where Cherki stays wide, Silva, Foden and Semenyo comes in the pitch so that O'Reilly can get high? Almost get him into these half spaces, maybe staying wide initially and then last minute drifting into these positions, especially if Haaland has the ball, using his physicality to hold it up in the box. Can he lay it off to the likes of Semenyo, who can run onto it, and then we know he's got that ability to whip the ball into that far corner like so, from just outside the box or from wide angles where he can whip the ball into that far corner as well. Again, it really plays into his strengths. When you look at his goals from this season, he's able to get goals pretty much from around these kind of areas. So I think that's a key position that they need to try and get him in. drifting from wide to the inside, or he can go wide out as well towards this position. Can he then look for these cutbacks? Something similar to what Doku does. I think it's this coming inside the pitch which Semenyo does a lot better than what Jeremy Doku would, and what the likes of Reinders have shown when they're playing on that side. Now, there is another world as well where he's able to play on the right-hand side, and he's done it at Bournemouth for fairly often as well, actually. And I think how they'll use him in that position will actually differ to how he's used on the left. Now, that's not to say he can't do what he does on the left, and I do think he will get minutes on this right-hand side without sacrificing his output. But I think we see a lot more sense of a directness that, again, Cherki doesn't offer. If we go into these positions where we've come into the half space, Nunes is overlapping. Cherki's brilliant in this position, absolutely fine. He can play little dinked through balls for Haaland to get onto. That's fine. But what I don't think that he has that the likes of Semenyo would offer is, say he's here. You could see Silva drifting into this position, something like this, where it becomes very right-sided bias. Can you then see Semenyo play a pass into the likes of Silva, who makes this pass, and then that means Semenyo can make this run around the defender and receive the ball in this little position. Look for the cutback on that right foot. I don't know what I've done there, but make the cutback on his right foot for the likes of Haaland to get on the end of. I think he's going to stretch that defence well, use that right foot, also able to use that left foot, cut inside, get into the half spaces, make them moments count where he's able to get into shooting opportunities. I think that's where you have to get him. But regardless of what side Semenyo starts, and even if he does start, or whether he's just a rotation option, there is no doubt that he will thrive at Manchester City. He is a top player. He's got the attributes of a top player, but he's also got the output of a top player, and he's shown it consistently over a long time. And that's really crucial. I think you're getting a really good player for £64 million, and his mentality as well. He is just an absolute monster when it comes to his mentality. Off the ball, on the ball, his intensity is just ridiculous. And I think he's just perfect for Manchester City. I hate to say it, I would have loved him at Chelsea, but I think he is just perfect for Manchester City. I think he would have suited Liverpool as well. I think they're the two teams where he really would have thrived. I think at Liverpool he would have had to play off the right-hand side a bit more. Maybe he likes that, maybe he doesn't. But at Manchester City, I think he's going to play on either wing pretty consistently, and I think he's going to get goals. And that's exactly what he wants. He wants goals. He wants to play at a top team and score a lot. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Maybe I'll be there one day. But with these new signings and Pep's new tactics, Manchester City might actually now be in a position where they can go and hunt down Arsenal and try and chase the Premier League. But talking of new tactics, Chelsea have a new manager. And with that comes a whole load of speculation on how he might set his team up. How will Liam Rosenior implement his tactics to Chelsea? If you want to see my video and my thoughts on how he's going to do that and why he is secretly the perfect fit for Chelsea, go and check this video out right here. But let me know down below, how's Semenyo going to do this season? Will he fit in at Manchester City? And was it the right move for him? But until next time, I will see you all very soon with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.